Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter. I'm joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Pinkava. And today we have an exciting guest. We have Kali Fontanilla on joining us. She has exploded in the Instagram influencer world, so we're really excited to have that. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys that we have 20% off if you go to chickenladyfiberarts.com. Anything she has in stock, you can get beautiful, beautiful hand-dyed yarns at a beautiful discount. So make sure you check her out, chickenladyfiberarts.com. Use the code PIK Valentine 20 to get 20% off of your purchase at Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kali.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
So most of our followers are knitters.
Yeah.
And not everybody's on social media the way I tend to be. I tend to be really on Instagram a lot. So can you tell people a little bit about yourself, who you are, why you're here?
First of all, I just want to say that everyone out there who's just this rebel, this is the era of the rebels right now, you know, and I love the rebel knitters. I think you guys are awesome. And I've actually been kind of following your community for a while now, ever since Trump, because I know that a lot of you guys got really rejected by your own communities by supporting our president and not, you know, subscribing to all the woke garbage. So much respect to you guys and for speaking up. I think we all need to be speaking up right now. But yeah, I'm a former public school teacher of 15 years, and I am just tired of what's happening to our children. And I couldn't be silent anymore. I mean, it took, you know, a pandemic and crazy riots for me to finally speak up, but I'm here now and the rest is history. I mean, ever since I started speaking up about this stuff, it has been quite a ride. And I just don't think there's enough people that are on the front line speaking up, but the ones that are, it's crazy. I mean, we get a lot of hate, but we also get so much support. I mean, I know not everyone can speak up because their livelihood is threatened right now. We live in a country where if you don't follow the subscribed mindset that is being pushed by the mainstream media or Black Lives Matter or any of this garbage that's being forced on us, you will get fired and you will get persecuted. So I'm here to be a voice for those that can't speak, and also a voice for what's happening in our schools, mainly because I saw it firsthand and I see how it is hurting our children, and I'm tired of it, and I just could be silent no longer.
And you are a teacher in California too, which is the worst of it.
You know, it is the worst, but it's actually getting in. It's not just in these blue states, it's sadly in our red states as well. I think that we have just been a little bit sleepy because we trust our public schools for so many years. We went to public school maybe when we were kids and it wasn't, you know, that bad. Maybe there was a few bullies and maybe you had your one hippie teacher that would say weird stuff, but it's not what it was when we were kids. America needs to erase their memory of what happened when they were in public schools. And it's fundamentally different, especially the last 5 years, and especially since Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think that's really funny because I was a private school kid, so I never had the public school experience, but my husband graduated from a public school in '93. And so he and I have had conversations like when it was time to decide what to do with our kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I graduated like almost 10 years after you. Things, even when I was in school, things weren't the same. And so you can't look at it the way it was, because he looks at high school with like such fondness, and it's not the same anymore.
Oh, he's like from the golden era. I mean, graduating '93, that's like a fun era. He was like the late '80s, early '90s. That's the best. Yeah, no, it's not that anymore. So get that out of your head. It's definitely not that America. And it's really sad what's happening in our schools now. I mean, our students are struggling with so much depression and anxiety. Our site, my district, they had to open up a wellness office for students just having anxiety issues and depression. Every site needed to have one because we had such a epidemic of children just being so unhappy and so miserable. And I think a lot of that has to do with society right now, and also just the way we're treating our children in public schools. I mean, it's nuts. And then this last year and a half, 2 years, they've gone full blown just horrible. And I think parents are finally waking up, which is good, but it's been bad for a while. And honestly, parents deserve to know what's going on in their child's education, and they deserve to be in control of it and what their child is being taught. And I think the government has come to the point where they do not care what parents think or what they want their child to be taught. It is what the government wants. It's what leftism wants. And you just need to shut up and let us do this to your child. And it's disgusting.
It really is. And I don't remember who it was, but there was a clip going around a couple of weeks ago of someone saying, oh, parents need to get out of this mindset that children are theirs.
Oh, yeah.
My children are not the government's, and you can have them over my dead body because that's how it's going to go.
Government is not good parents. They're not good parents. Can we just put that
anything?
I mean, you can see it. I mean, even in the most basic sense, it's like, kids who are in foster programs or anything else, are they well adjusted? No, government programs do not do well in these areas.
Mm-mm. Absolutely not. And I think it's become this idea where it's like daddy knows best, big brother knows best. I think that's really happened this last 2 years with the pandemic. Oh, you guys are too stupid to make decisions on your own. You need to put a mask on your kids because you're too dumb to actually do the research and know that it's mask saves lives. So you're the dumb one, and we're going to force it on your child, even though you don't want to put that on your child. And we're having parents that are having to advocate for their child who has asthma, like, hey, my kid should not be wearing a mask all day. He's got asthma, and they're getting shut down, And then we have, I feel like they've just really made it seem like us, the average American that cares a lot about their child, is too stupid to make good decisions for their child. So therefore the government needs to step in, and it's so wrong. And I'm just seeing it's getting worse and worse, and we have to stand up and we have to put an end to this, or they're just going to continue.
Yeah, I think the pandemic brought a lot to light because like you said earlier, you think that blue states are really bad. Like, I'm in New York. Everything here is pretty crappy. Like, that's just what it is. But you expect the red states to be better. But when it comes to some of this stuff, there's federal things that they want you to teach your kids. All this, like, we had a big uproar years ago with the Common Core coming through. But I think the pandemic really brought a lot of it to light because parents were in a situation where now we're here while their child is being taught, and all of a sudden we're going, what? What is happening? But when did you decide to leave teaching?
Well, I haven't formally left teaching because I am opening my own school. So I'm definitely going to always be teaching. It's what I love doing. Right. I mean, I absolutely love teaching high school, public high school, even in middle school. I taught in, farm communities in California. I taught the English learners. So I had a lot of success with my students, and, the kids are the innocent party in all of this. And that's what makes me so angry, is that they didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be brainwashed and to have their education be subpar, which is what it is. And, they didn't ask to have to wear a mask all day or to be treated like they're going to kill grandma or whatever. And so the kids are absolutely the innocent party in all of this. It's really the adults. But I just, what happened, it really was Black Lives Matter, seeing the people just embrace this movement that is we need to get out of our mind. They were really good at branding themselves using the word Black Lives Matter because they do not care about Black lives. It's the abolish the police movement. And let's just call it that. They want to abolish the police. They want to, and so many people that support Black Lives Matter have never actually read the legislation that they push, like the Breathe Act or the People's Response Act. In the Breathe Act, they want to decriminalize human trafficking. I mean, come on, who would be in support of that? They want to abolish ICE. So therefore, we already have a drug overdose crisis in America. What's abolishing ICE going to do for that? They want to get rid of federal prisons. They want to get rid of prison in general. They want to get rid of life sentences. They want to get rid of mandatory minimum sentences. They want, all kinds of crazy stuff. And people do not take the time to research this stuff. And they just align with it because the media told them to do it. And then I saw it coming into our schools like crazy. And if you speak up against it, you're labeled as a racist or a white supremacist or, all this crazy stuff that is just so not true. So that just really, really when I started seeing my school and my district embrace all the Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter messaging, I was like, I can't be silent anymore. And we all know that you have to be a certain skin color to speak up against this stuff. And I knew that I at least had that going for me. If I'm going to speak up against this, they can't, they still attack like crazy. I mean, I still have someone from my current district who changes, I block them and they come back as a new profile and they say the most evil, horrible things to me. Like, you were once such a good teacher and now you're just trying to get attention and you're just trying to be a pick me and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, like, there's a lot better things to get attention for than this stuff, like if I wanted to be a social media presence, I would do like cooking something or workouts or, like, no, this is not very fun. But anyways, that really, and then seeing the lessons given to our students, it was just obnoxious and annoying and wrong. And I had to say something.
And this is maybe skipping ahead in the story slightly, but I noticed on your profile that you had a link to the Epic Times, and I actually pulled out my old paper. So
nice.
But I was reading in there that that there was someone at the school meeting who said that you were, the anti-people of color. Like, what?
Yep.
It's insane.
And that's a nice way of calling us white supremacists.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he did it it was the school board president. And he did it on Facebook, public. Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with. If you speak up against this stuff, you will get, what does anti people of color mean? You're racist, right? So you'll get labeled as a racist or a white supremacist, right? When you're really just out to protect your children. Okay, if you want to teach your kids about Black Lives Matter and teach them about critical race theory, by all means, be my guest, but don't force it on all of America's kids that with parents and kids that don't want this stuff. Like that's the beauty of the freedom in this country is if you want to teach your child that, all white people have white privilege and Black people are being victimized daily, go ahead, be my guest, do it, but don't force it on all of America's kids. And then the people that don't want it, call them racist and white supremacists and all the horrible things. I've never even experienced racism like I've experienced the last year and a half since I've been speaking up about this. And you can follow me on Instagram and I take screenshots of it all and expose it because it's bad what these people say to you when you speak up against it. A Black woman. So if you guys are so woke and anti-racist, why do you have to defend your anti-racism with some of the worst racism I've ever seen? Like that's very counterproductive.
So when I get yelled at and told I'm a racist, it's usually other white women that are telling me that. Do you get a lot of, is it the same for you, or do you get a broader spectrum telling you that you're racist?
I definitely do get a lot of white liberal women. They are really, it's like a religion for them.
It is.
And they really love to put you down. Their favorite thing is that you're stupid and you're brainwashed and you're in a Trump cult, that's their thing. But the real nasty, some of the worst stuff that I've had is actually from Black men that have really subscribed to the victim mentality. They say some of the horrible, like you're sucking Trump's, just horrible things. Oh, you had too much white DI. I've had that over and over again. Oh, you're with a white man. You have a white husband when he's Mexican and Puerto Rican, but they don't care about that. Once I say that, they're like,
those white Hispanics coming in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and they're like, well, Puerto Rican.
George Zimmerman and like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
White Hispanic.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're just so, and they attack your skin color. They attack, you're not Black enough. Oh, you want to be white, like all kinds of just crazy stuff. But then there's also so much support. There's a lot of people in America who are waking up right now and rejecting this stuff. And they are so supportive. And I appreciate that too, but it's a lot of hate.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised because a lot of the stuff on your account is just funny. Like I will be scrolling and I won't realize it's you. And I'll be like, what is this thing about pronouns? And I'll be like, oh, never mind.
Well, I have two accounts on Instagram. I have the one where I post parody videos, and then I have my normal account. So I got a gift from my district for being Black. So I received a email from the superintendent saying that there's a group of Black there's a group that they're wanting to support their Black teachers more. And they're actually doing a focus group to say how they're going to do things to make it better for Black teachers. And I'm already no, please don't treat me differently than my colleagues. I don't want to be part of this. Please don't pander to me. Please don't treat me differently because of the color of my skin. And then he said that a group of parents had assembled a special gift for all the Black teachers. And this was like a month after George Floyd in response to the pain of George Floyd, when I was actually more in pain about all the stuff they were doing to destroy America. I mean, there was like something like 30 plus people that died in 2 weeks at those protests. I was watching people getting thrown out of their cars and beat to death. I was watching cities and small businesses being burned down. That was what was bothering me more than George Floyd. But no, of course, I should be so upset about what's happening with George Floyd, right? So I get this gift. I go and pick it up from my school site, and it has an I Love Being Black pin in it. And it has an I Love Being Black sticker. And it has a Black Educators Matter mask. So are they encouraging us to wear a Black Educators Matter mask in front of our students? Because that's automatically telling my students, hey, if you don't support Black Lives Matter and you want to speak up in my class, I'm going to shut you down, you know? And it had expired Avon, which is really funny because when I did a video about this, all the ladies in the Midwest were like, not expired Avon. It was really, yeah. It's like, who had that in their like garage? You know,
like, well, let's just like put a filler gift in here.
Yeah, exactly. It was really odd. And then it had like a little Black Teachers Appreciation like card that had an Africa symbol and a Black Power fist. And it's just like, I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to skin color idolatry. You know,
Right.
White people can't do that. You can't give white teachers a gift that says, I love being white. Like that, if someone had an I Love Being White bumper sticker, you're like, all right, good job, Aryan race brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? Like that's,
Yeah.
you know, you can't
If I
do
came out
that.
with an I Love Being White hat pattern,
Yeah,
man, I
or-
would get roasted.
Yeah, White Educators Matter. You know, can I wear a mask that says White Educators Matter? I'm actually half white. So, I mean, what's wrong with that? So it's just ridiculous, like the way that you're treated. And so actually I started doing parody videos with the Black Educators Matter mask of a woke teacher. And people think she's real because these people are really that bad. You know, there really
They're
is teachers
really
like
funny.
that. Yeah.
They're really, really funny.
Thank you.
Every time I see one, I'm like, I think it's real for a minute. And I'm like, how is this on my feed? And I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. I got
Yeah,
it.
I do give people a shock. And I think they're very relieved when I tell them that it's a parody. They're either like, oh, thank God, but this is really happening. But the fact that she wouldn't have been believable 10, 15 years ago. I call her Miss Luna activist, you know, and she just says the most crazy things. And it's funny because now I receive hate from the right, and it's so much kinder. It's always like, and she says the craziest stuff ever, right? And I'll get hate from them and they'll be like, you know, you're not following the Constitution and you should be fired and stuff like that. But it's not really like what's happening with people on the left when I'm not even like saying that crazy of stuff is like what my parody is saying, you know? So
That's
it's
right.
interesting. Our country is so divided, but it's sad that we can't make fun of the left either. They really try and censor that account. They don't like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But so before all of this stuff happened, have you always been like a conservative Trump supporter, or so this is new?
Well, I walked away during Obama's second term.
Okay.
So a lot of it had to do with education, actually. So I was getting my teaching credential and becoming a teacher during Obama's first term. And I was very much into him. I mean, my whole family's left-leaning, at least my immediate family. And I was born and raised in Santa Cruz, California, a very left-leaning area. Most of my teachers are left-leaning. And so that's what I was around. And I was totally convinced that Republicans are just a bunch of white racists and that the Democrats care about brown people and poor people. And that was my education on that. Like, that was my understanding of that. And I was very much idealistic. You know, I had these ideas that America needs to change and that it's a really bad place for people of color and all that kind of stuff. And I began to realize that it actually isn't that bad here, especially once you start doing some research into like how many Africans want to come to America and how well they do here. Like Nigerians, they have higher average income. They have some of the highest average income in America, more so than white people, that's for sure. But Nigerian Americans that immigrate from Nigeria do amazing in America.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a very good friend that came from Zambia, and she is like super conservative and her kids are like super amazing. And, you know, people just want the opportunities we have. They don't realize.
absolutely.
People here just have no idea.
And that's a problem, because the fact that we have no idea limits us. We start thinking, and that happened to me when I was younger. I didn't think I could get very far in life, or my voice isn't someone that's important, because I was told that it's hard for me as a Black woman. You know what I'm saying? I was told that, and I subscribed to it for a while, and it really does limit what you tell yourself you can do, and so yeah, it was during Obama. He made all these grand promises, and I was really into him, but then he did things like extend the Patriot Act with the National Defense Act, I think that's what it's called, and make it even worse, even though he said he was going to get rid of the Patriot Act. He brought in Common Core, which was a total federal power grab. Our states are supposed to run our education. And the fact that the federal government came out with standards that are nationwide, that's not, our federal government is not supposed to be running our schools. So that's not right. And the standards were awful. And it also disconnected parents from their children, because the new Common Core math made it very hard for parents to support their children in math. So that happened. And then
you math at all. I think that I've seen this stuff for Common Core math. I'm like, that's not logical at all.
No, it's weird.
It's very like, math is what we say it is, and not something you can think out for yourself. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And then I really didn't like that he cut food stamps. So here I am thinking, oh, Obama is going to help the poor. And he did the largest food stamp cut of any president of my lifetime. And I'm seeing my friends who are big Obama supporters. And I'm like, you guys, like, he's just doing the same stuff Bush did. Like, why are you guys so about him? Is it because of the way he looks and he's charming or whatever? Like, I just got very jaded. And so I decided not to vote for him a second term. And I just made the decision that both sides are lame. I'm not going to, vote anymore. And then Trump came around. And it's funny, because I actually only voted for him out of spite for Hillary. I knew Hillary was going to win California. And I'm in California, but I'm like, I just want to give her one less vote, because she's an awful person. If you research who she is a monster. And the amount of protection that family has is really creepy, really, really creepy. And so, and the way that they tried to label Trump as like this womanizer, which yes, he was, what billionaire isn't, but anyways, but then her own husband had someone go down on him in the White House, sorry, don't, if your kids are listening, but that's what happened, like, and they're going to act like, oh, Trump is such a horrible guy, he's not presidential, when Hillary Clinton's husband, that you guys are going to say is the better person, the better people to be in the White House, did worse things, I think,
And not even to mention Juanita Broderick and all these other women. And then
horrible
afterwards.
Yeah, she would destroy women that had, and it was very plausible that those women had bad interactions with Clinton, with Bill Clinton. And so I'm seeing this like double standard, this massive double standard with Trump. And we all knew who I used to watch what's his show? His show was The Apprentice. Yeah. And we knew his personality, like his personality it's just very Trumpy. Like it is what it is. And I like that he's not hiding who he truly is,
Yeah. I think that a lot of people are put off by that, but there's something that the left doesn't understand. We don't have to love everything about someone to support them. And that's where a lot of our breakdown is in general, because you and I might not agree on religion. That doesn't mean we can't get along and talk and have and the same thing with Trump. I don't love everything he did. I don't love everything he said or tweeted. It doesn't mean that that's the big difference. Sorry, I don't mean
exactly. No, it's a great point. And just the way that the media like protected Obama for 8 years, and then the way they just immediately started going after Trump was also very eye-opening for me, because I judge by fruit. I judge by like what someone actually does, not necessarily by their words, even though Trump did live up to a lot of his promises. But it was just like, you guys, like the economy is doing great. He's doing more for Black America than Obama ever did. He actually was the most, I would say, not super right, he's not very conservative. He was probably the most we could have ever happened with getting some sort of unity, because he wasn't very, he was the first president to actually, support gay marriage from the beginning. Obama and Biden didn't. And so it's like, why are you guys rejecting this guy? He actually stands for some of the things you guys are into. And so it was really like eye-opening to see the way he was treated, and then the things he was doing for the country. And so so that got me to be more actually back involved politically, because I figured, I can't let these leftists just bully us into constantly, because, we're afraid to vote or whatever, just bully us into into them taking power. We see what it's like when they take power. We see it in their cities. Their cities are awful. These cities that are controlled by socialists and Democrat progressives, and, they're awful. People are leaving them in droves. So yeah, I just couldn't just stand back and watch my country be destroyed.
The different divides in the country with the issues, that going back to kind of originally what got you into the sort of political sphere and the ethnic studies classes. You were saying before how people don't know how good they have it in America. And with ethnic studies, you're like, oh, well, education and diversity, teaching kids that life is different for different people around the world, that's a good thing. And it just blows me away how kids have no clue that if you have any sort of diversity, it's not like, well, let's talk about different countries around the world. No, that ethnic studies sounds like it's a good and sensible proposition.
Yeah.
But in the article written about you, and you have said before that basically ethnic studies are dividing kids by privilege.
Oh yeah.
It's a CRT level of your privilege, you're not.
Oh yeah.
Let's learn about the different cultures.
Yep. So here's what, when we hear the term ethnic studies, it does sound like it's going to be something nice. We're going to learn about different cultures. Maybe we'll bring in some different types of food and learn about their music and, learn about different cultures. And that's totally not what it is. And what's happening in California is that Gavin Newsom signed a bill that ethnic studies is going to be required for all high schoolers to graduate. And if you look at the actual curriculum, it's basically woke brainwashing class, and with a lot of critical race theory. So for example, my students did a privilege quiz on day 5, where they were asked a bunch of questions, and then they were ranked by privilege from bottom to top. So, and they were supposed to reflect on whether they were on the top in privilege or on the bottom in privilege. And the questions were totally loaded, and they were, and it was invasive. And like, for one, why are we spending time on this? And we have a literacy crisis in America. Why are we making sure kids learn about Marxism in 9th grade? And why are we having them learn about the 4 eyes of oppression and intersectionality and all this like woke garbage when we have a literacy crisis? If you really care about minority students, let's make sure they know how to read at a grade level that, can get them a really good job. Like, let's make sure they're reading at grade level. How about that? But they're requiring all kids to take this class. It's just a brainwashing class. It's awful. And some of my students really rejected it, and they actually failed the class, and they were over it. They didn't understand why they had to take this woke class. They had a whole week on Black Lives Matter. They, just learn about, they criticize patriarchy. They criticize capitalism. It's just a ridiculous class. And it's basically what you would get in college when you go to like these left-leaning colleges, but now they're bringing it into our younger kids.
Right, because if you can get a hold of them when they're younger, it's better.
Yep, exactly.
It's harder to switch it around,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Anne.
No, I was about to say, in your area, I was reading that there's an organization, the Voices for Monterey Bay, that they are really pushing that into, and kids can get extra credit for joining their journalism, but really activism course.
Exactly.
Insane.
And this is a organization that doxes police officers. So they'll put the police officer's name and whatever they're alleged to have done on social media to dox them. And they also were working on an alternative to police. So you could call their agency instead of police officers. So they're very anti-police. And these people like Black Lives Matter and stuff that support abolishing the police, that is hate speech against police officers. Imagine if we said, and we have students that have police officer parents. Imagine if we said abolish all Black people, or abolish all doctors, or abolish all teachers, abolish all Jewish people, that's hate speech. And they're just letting this happen in our schools, this hate speech. And Black Lives Matter is actually a product of critical race theory, because what critical race theory does is apply guilt to the collective. So instead of individual racist and individual actions, it's all white people are inherently racist. All white people have privilege. All institutions are favoring white people. So it's this blanket. And that's exactly what Black Lives Matter does. All cops are bad. That's why when you saw these protests where they were abusing police officers that had nothing to do with George Floyd, 700 officers violently injured because they were putting guilt on the collective. It's such toxic stuff, and I can't stand it. It's really awful what they're doing.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing with Black Lives Matters is, okay, so I'm white, so I have privilege. But, I grew up in a modest household where both my parents worked really hard. And there could be a Black person that grew up in relative wealth. And so for you to say I'm privileged just because of my skin color, well, that's not really true. But you can't have that doesn't matter. No, situations do not matter at all because I am white. So therefore I will always be privileged. And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you're Black and you're a millionaire, you have more privilege than I do. That's just life. And
yeah,
breaking everything down into
and in reality, what's on the books, like in terms of systemic racism, what's on the books right now that is allowed is actually privilege towards people of color. Like I received a scholarship for being Black, $40,000 scholarship. I actually didn't take it because it wasn't the college I wanted to go to, but you can't get that as a white person. You can't get a white person's scholarship, affirmative action laws that discriminate against discriminate against white people because of the color of their skin, even though they're maybe more qualified. You can't get certain jobs. So what I'm seeing in America and right now is actually on the books in terms of laws is the opposite, so it's just a really crazy time we're living in.
It is. My husband, when we first started dating, forever ago, he took the fireman's quiz, test, whatever it is. And he scored the same as like 5 or 6 other people in his class. But because he was a white man, he ended up with a lower score than all the other people because he didn't have military service. He didn't have, he wasn't of an ethnic origin. And so, that was an opportunity that, he may have really enjoyed, but he wasn't even able to try because even though his score was on the same level as everybody else's, he wasn't allowed to do it, which it's goofy. It doesn't make sense. But you say that to other people.
We're the only country that really does this too. If you go to Japan or Mexico or just any of these other countries, they're not like, you see their leaders. I mean, they're predominantly like, you go to Japan and their leaders are prominently Japanese, and there's not this big call to make sure we have, all of these different ethnicities in our leadership. And the reality is America is still predominantly white. So there might seem like, oh, there's a, like with the Supreme Court right now, they're like, oh, we have to have a Black woman. We have to have a Black woman. So let's put all credentials aside and make sure we choose a Black woman first. And then, even though someone else may be more qualified. But what we forget is that America is as late as the early 90s was 80% white. So it's no wonder there's been more white men on the Supreme Court. So it's really just, they're just weaponizing our good intentions. And I think a lot of these people do have good intentions. They really do think that these kind of policies are going to help Black people and help Black America, when it really just hurts and it creates more racism. When I was in my college, when I was getting my master's of education, I was having a conversation with all of the other people in the program. And this was at UC Santa Cruz. And I found out that I actually had the lowest GPA. I got in with the lowest GPA. I think it was like a 3.2. And they were like, oh, you got in because you were a Black woman. And I'm like, you know what? Like at the time I was still on the left and I was very much insulted by it. But now I look back and I'm like, maybe that was why I was chosen over other people, And of course there's resentment there if you're a white person and your spot gets taken by someone just because of the color of their skin, and they think they're somehow helping and repairing the sins of the past. And it's not. It's absolutely not. It's actually hurting us and creating more racism.
To go back a little bit to what you're saying about it being an American issue, there's actually a study coming out of England too, when they, rate all of the children and, they have them divided by race and everything else. And it's the poor white kids who are being left behind.
Yep.
And that is, one of the biggest problems that they have for education, that it is an American problem, but it's also a problem in England and other kind of Western.
The more wokey places. Yeah.
Yeah. The wokens of the world.
Yeah.
Have issues.
It's really discouraging to talk to you. Like, I'm really glad you're here, but just all of this stuff, it's so upsetting. And
well, I do have some solutions to offer. So
yes, because I have two kids. I have a second grader and a first grader, and I don't want this for them.
No. And you shouldn't. And that's a good thing to not want that for our children. They're like hell bent on destroying our children's innocence. And I'm so tired of it. It's like such a short time. I taught middle school that was the majority of my career. I taught high school the last 2 years, but most of my career was teaching middle school. And they come in as these like little these little caterpillars. And by the time they leave, they're like butterflies. They're like completely different. And our kids are rapidly developing and changing. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure it was like yesterday when you were holding them in your arms. And
right.
We only have one chance with our children in raising them. That's it. One chance. And so it's so important what you put in that child's mind. And that's why they're really going after the kids, because they know how influenceable they are. Like I would have boys that come in, and I keep going because we also have a problem with our boys in America. Like our boys are struggling. It's 60% girls that are getting admitted to colleges, and our boys are failing classes more so than girls because they're being dehumanized and, they're not even being taught what a male is anymore. But I would have these boys that come in and they're just over school and they think it's stupid. And by the time they leave my class, they're like, I'm motivated, I'm ready to go. And it's so easy to influence them, for the good or for the bad. Children are pretty moldable. That's the whole point. That's why they are in our care. They're not able to go be on their own. They don't know the world on their own. And so we are the ones in charge of raising them. And parents have done this thing where they just trust their public schools and drop their kids off for 7-8 hours a day. And they don't realize the kind of damage they're doing to their child, and even if your child is strong, why would you put them in a war zone for 7-8 hours a day? Instead of putting them in a place that nurtures their good character and nurtures what they're good at, and these schools are trying to have every kid fit this certain mold too. We have so many different gifts and they just want kids to just be barely good at, just be okay at like multiple subjects when we have kids that are very gifted in certain areas and struggle in others, and they should be nurtured in the areas that they're gifted in, but schools don't do that. So yeah, I'm actually opening my own school. It's going to be an online academy called Exodus Institute. And I'm really excited. I'm doing it with my husband. We both have masters in education. We both have lots of teaching experience, 20 years combined between the two of us. And we are both tired of what's happening in our schools. And we want to offer a program to parents that may not necessarily want to be the main teacher of their child, but want to have lessons that they can trust. And so our lessons are going to be fully transparent. So we are going to offer a full program, K through 12. So if you want to be kind of hands off and just be like, hey, I just want you guys to take care of getting my high schooler a diploma. We can do it all. Or we can do individual lessons. So let's say you already have a homeschool program, but you want to supplement with some lessons from me and from my husband. Well, then you could do that as well. So we're going to offer a bunch of like kind of different packages for people depending on what they need. And also if you still have to have your child in public school, they can come to Exodus and get some lessons that kind of undo some of the indoctrination they're getting in their school, but from good credentialed teachers that will teach them the truth, because the reality is we have the truth. So, communism sucks. And a lot of kids are being taught that it's good, especially in middle school and high school. And we're going to teach the kids in our lessons that communism is bad. Like it never works out. It may sound nice, but like every year I do with my high schoolers a North Korea project, and they learn about North Korea and how it became communist and how they kind of took advantage of the people to get them to sign up for this. And so I'm really excited about opening our school.
It's really, really cool. Because I don't mind homeschooling. Like my kids were in a private school and then COVID happened, and we could not imagine the amount of money we had to spend to send them to private school. And then we're like, it's so expensive. So we started homeschooling because everything was up in the air. But I'm good with math. I'm good with language. I despise teaching my kids like history. Like, I don't know why, but I think that they don't love it because I don't love it. And so they have
exactly. And that's the thing with parents is they may be good at certain subjects, but they may not be able to do all of the subjects. And that's what's great about what we're going to do is we're going to offer, you don't have to do our full program. You can do just the individual. And a lot of it's going to be actually the history, the supplemental stuff is going to be a lot of it about history and just things that, you may not have thought of to teach your child, but are going to be a good filler for, your program that you do with your kid already.
Sure. And that is Think Exodus.
You can
thinkexodus.com.
Yeah, thinkexodus.org. Thinkexodus.org. And we are hoping to launch mid-March. It's a lot of work, but things are rolling along. My husband's very good at the business end, and parents can get on the mailing list if they're interested in joining our mailing list. And our supplemental lessons, which is for parents that are already homeschooling, I think is going to be our best thing that we can offer, because the full program is going to be great, but that's for parents that don't necessarily want to do all of the work of homeschooling their child. But our supplemental lessons, I think, are going to be great because it's just going to offer some variety in your day for your student, but it's also going to be very low cost. So
because I've had my children take classes on outschool.com, which is their thing. But and some of the classes are very good, but you have to like go through and read the teacher bios and stuff because some of them are really woke and you don't realize it until you get all the way down at the end of their profile and you're like, oh, well, you're not taking that class anymore because now I know what they think. And so I'm not going to put you in there. Have an option of somebody that is trustworthy is really nice.
Nice. Yeah. And that's exactly what we want to be, is fully transparent to parents, break down exactly what's in the lesson. And we're really going to be mindful of different people's religions too, as well. We'll be very transparent on if it's something that's going to have more of because both my husband and I are Christian, but it's something that's going to more have a Christian focus, but we'll also have lessons that are just basic American history or civics and stuff like that. And we'll be transparent on when it doesn't have that kind of stuff, because like I said, we really respect the parents' wishes on how they want to raise their child.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Are you and your husband the only teachers?
Well, for our full K through 12 fully accredited, no. We're having teachers that are credentialed in like multiple subject and in science, and because it's going to go all the way up till 12th grade. So we're actually partnering with teachers that have full credentials that are, and that program is actually going to be Christian, the fully accredited K through 12 program. But our program, which is the supplemental, is going to be taught by my husband and I. Yeah. And eventually they'll be integrated more, but right now we're keeping them separate just because it's so much work. And it's a lot of work.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I want to look into it because my first grader hates reading.
Oh, that's my specialty.
What do you guys got? Oh, really?
I love, teaching reading is definitely, I actually taught the low readers for many years. That was my specialty, was helping kids catch up with reading. And it's just, it's every child is different. One-on-one reading is so important, but yeah, reading is definitely my specialty. And I think sometimes it needs to be done with someone who isn't necessarily the parent. I used to do reading tutoring, and like, I would watch, like the parents would come and be like, wow, he would never do that with me. And I'm like, well, it's because you have unconditional love for your child. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he knows that he can act up like, with you and be over it. But with me, they're like, like,
no, my second grader has gotten into this thing where they like are really sloppy with their handwriting and they get mad if I correct them. And I'm like, dude, you cannot turn in that paper.
Yeah.
Your Y looks like an X. This is not okay.
Yeah.
But because I'm mom, sometimes.
Exactly.
But that's really interesting. So when did you guys decide? So you used to teach in California.
Yep.
Are you still in California?
We moved to Florida. So I think moving to Florida has really actually been what I needed to do. I had no idea how mean people were in California. And I didn't know that a lot of my personality was actually really shutting down in California. And I was just, just kind of keeping to myself because I was I lived in an area that was 80% Biden voters, and so when the pandemic hit, they were all in masks, all very unfriendly. I had people shuffling their kids away from me if I was walking outside without a mask, like just very like closed up. And then I come to Florida and I'm like, whoa, people are nice here. They're accepting, even I would say even like the average leftist over here is more accepting than, they kind of have to be, because they're all breaking their own rules out here. They're still going out to eat and they're still, enjoying the freedom we have here. And so, yeah, I think being in Florida has really been like helpful for me to be inspired. And that's what inspired my husband and I to start our own school, is that, just being in an area where we feel a lot more free, you can live up to your potential. Well, I just want to share with parents that, even if you can't pull your kids from public schools, there are some things you can do to help fight it. Go to your school board meetings and speak up. Every voice needs to be heard. Don't worry about being the most eloquent or the most, well-written when you write to the school board. Write a letter ahead of time and read it to the school board. Let them know that you're not happy with what's happening. And then also advocate for academic transparency laws in your campus. In your state, which means that all lessons need to be published online so that you can see exactly what's being taught to your students. That doesn't necessarily stop individual teachers from saying whatever they want, but at least it's a start. They know that their lessons are being looked at. And then school choice, advocate for school choice in your state. I know California right now is collecting signatures for school choice. So if you look up California and school choice, you can find a place online to add your name if you live in California that you want school choice, so that you can apply your tax dollars to whatever school you want to put your child in. So there is some hope. And I think that we need to just continue to stick together and encourage each other and stay united. There's a lot of hate coming our way. So when you see people standing up to this, they may not do it perfectly. They may not align perfectly with all of your personal beliefs, but they are still your ally and they're still doing great work for our country. So kind of like Trump is not a perfect man, but look what he stopped. Imagine if we had 4 years of Hillary, where we would be at. Imagine if he didn't choose the Supreme Court, 3 Supreme Court justices, and we had, the mandates not get overturned like they were in the Supreme Court, So there's a lot of, people aren't perfect. So be nice to those that are on the front lines, because we need your support. We need your help.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so pleased that you were able to join us today. It's there's so much to think about and there's so much going on, and it's just great to hear all the stuff that you are doing. And yeah, if you guys want to check out her thinkexodus.org, I will be doing that in about 5 minutes. Because I know that I'm not the best teacher, and that's okay. So, but yeah, I'm just so pleased you were able to join us today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We will see you next week. Don't forget to check out Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. She has 20% off for our viewers. Go to chickenladyfiberarts.com and use the code PIKValentine20 for 20% off your order. Thanks, guys. We will see you soon.